Since the Earth was listed as a collectible, everything has changed. Modules have become the source of all extraordinary powers, and exploration dimensions have become the best way to acquire modules. Internal power module+Meridians+Orifices+Flames+Knives equals burning wood knife technique. Magic module+spell model+spiritual guidance+missile equals magic missile. Internal power +Qi and blood +space +life +death +grinding +transformation +dot equals. Liu Bai, who was leading his own death compensation, began a journey of constantly harvesting the wool of death. Keywords of the novel. Death compensation no pop-ups, death compensation txt complete collection download, latest chapter of death compensation reading. Chapter 1. Death compensation. You are listening at novel full.audio. Chapter 1. Death compensation. Cold and lonely, as if touching something, then Liu Bai suddenly woke up. A dim and old ceiling appeared in front of Liu Bai, with the familiar ringtone of his phone ringing in his ear. The unfamiliar ceiling. Despite having the habit of being bedridden, Liu Bai still sat up today. It was a big day. Open the curtains, look out the window, and confirm your location again. Behind the gray sky, there is a mesh-like barrier, like an inverted bowl, enveloping the entire city. Pulling the curtains, Liu Bai's expression flickered, and a circular snake ring made of black and white colors appeared in his hand. After observing for a while, I withdrew the ring back into my mind. This ring is indeed a golden finger, but unfortunately, it is still unclear what its purpose is. Perhaps there are still some conditions left. Liu Bai thought. Liu Bai stuffed an envelope into his arms, put on his flat glasses, organized his things, and walked out. Sitting on the dilapidated bus, Liu Bai cautiously watched the people around him, holding onto the envelope with both hands around his chest. Inside that envelope is his death compensation. On the ground were gangsters and old transportation vehicles, while in the sky were various fast-flying aircraft. Looking at the magical scenes constantly being overlooked outside the window, Liu Bai still had some unreality. This future is different from what I thought, and of course it's even more exciting. Liu Bai's mind fluctuated. I really want to see the scenery in that dimension right away. However, the tickets for the Tijianhu dimension of Tianwu group have finally opened today. With this compensation, I can also enter the dimension and become a traveler. In this era, the most dangerous profession is called a traveler, and the most noble profession is also a traveler. Everyone wants to become a traveler. Unfortunately, all the keys to the dimensions that can open the 1000-dimensional gate have been monopolized by some pioneers. Unless they are internal personnel, each entry ticket is sold very expensive and often has a market without a price. Liu Bai and others have an opportunity to purchase tickets. Tianwu Group. After getting off the bus, Liu Bai saw the building across from him, with a huge sign on it, which was his destination. With a hopeful mood, Liu Bai was preparing to cross the road towards the building when a van drove over. Liu Bai's nerves instantly tightened and he became alert. The public security in Yongfeng City, where he is located, is not good. This type of van can charge down a group of bandits at any time, and after a while, there will be no more of you on the road. Taking a few steps back and touching his pocket, Liu Bai saw that the door of the van had been opened directly. A group of masked bandits rushed out directly, their eyes fixed on Liu Bai's body, more precisely, on his chest. Coming for compensation. Liu Bai instantly realized that his hand in his pocket had already squeezed a small bag tightly. Lucky one, hand over the money obediently, or else you'll die again. The piercing voice of the bandits led by him rang out, and he also pulled out a pistol. The other bandits were surrounding, trying to cut off Liu Bai's escape route. This is compensation from the Qianwei Church. How dare you grab it? The Qianwei Church is so high that it doesn't care about such a small matter. The bandit smiled and revealed his big yellow teeth. He understood in his heart that 77 years ago, the god of the 1,000 dimensions collected the earth as a collection, and the world became a model where various companies dominated various cities, without the supervision of the 1,000 dimensions church. Lu Bai was just a lucky person who died due to dimensional changes at that time and was pulled back from death. After sleeping for 77 years, he woke up again and became helpless. Who would he grab if he didn't? Don't talk about what you have or don't have, quickly hand over the compensation, the bandit said sternly, moving the gun in his hand. At this moment, Lu Bai moved, sprinkling white powder mixed with red as he lowered his body and slid forward. Several bandits were caught off guard and felt a sharp pain in their eyes. The taste of quicklime and chili powder was not pleasant. Accompanied by screams, Lu Bai arrived in front of the armed bandit in just an instant. The flat glasses he wore provided excellent protection, allowing Lu Bai to accurately grasp the hand of the bandit holding the gun, twist it away, and then lift his elbow, pressing it directly against the bandit's neck. However, what came from the elbow was not the touch of the throat, but rather the feeling of steel. Extraordinary power. Lu Bai was slightly stunned, only to see a black iron color appear on the surface of the opponent's body. Why do people with extraordinary power take notice of their compensation? Cough cough, you damn it. The angry voice of the bandit came, and the other blackened hand directly reached out to Lu Bai, not giving him a chance to think. However, although Lu Bai was a bit distracted, his next move in the battle did not stop. Instead, he had already caught up, kicked his whip leg, and headed straight between the bandit's legs, as if shooting from a soccer ball, or as if a dragon was lurking around. Accompanied by some kind of shattering sound is a violent noise coming from not far away, accompanied by violent vibrations. A large hole was broken on a certain floor of the Tianwu building not far away, and a large number of glass fragments fell. Thick black smoke emerged from the hole. Also falling behind was a woman wearing a black windbreaker, holding a black box in her arms. There were no ropes or anything like that, but the woman in the black windbreaker maintained her balance in mid-air, and the falling glass fragments seemed to be pushed away by an invisible force. But behind the woman in the black windbreaker, a stream of light flew out and came straight towards her. Women also seem to have eyes behind them, even in mid-air, they use force to flip their bodies and block the box in their arms before the flowing light. However, the stream of light did not stop, instead piercing straight down, piercing the box and then tying it onto the woman's shoulder. At this moment it was clear what the flowing light was, and it was actually an ancient and simple long sword. Many things may seem to have happened, but they all happened in the moment after the explosion sounded. Although Lu Bai was surprised by the movement on one side, he did not stop the rhythm of the attack. A mouthful of saliva had already formed, spraying out like a spray of fish and landing on the face of the bandit. The reaction between water and quicklime, the pain caused by the high temperature burning, once again interrupted the bandit's intention to attack. Just as Lu Bai pulled out a thin awl from his sleeve and prepared to use his next move to completely defeat this enemy, a black box fell not far away, and a winged key came out from inside. The woman in the black windbreaker, with a shoulder injury, fell to the ground and looked straight at the box. When she saw the key, she looked surprised and couldn't stop it in time. An indescribable radiance bloomed, and a door that opened the dimension opened. A few people who were close to them, without even realizing it, were directly sucked into it. Su Ming has released a new book, please collect and request a recommendation ticket. Both collection and recommendation tickets are very important for new books, and I hope everyone can provide more support. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Ring of Life and Death. Life and Death Exchange. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Ring of Life and Death. Life and Death Exchange. When Lu Bai woke up, he found himself standing in a wilderness, and at the same time, a data panel appeared in front of him. Name: Lu Bai, race: human, gender: male, traveler ID, ZGG 20313054, has revealed talent. Qi and blood are like dragons, and the quality of qi and blood in the body far exceeds that of ordinary people, to the point where physical endurance and strength reach the peak that normal people can reach. Skill column cells. 3. Evaluation. A strong-willed person who is shameless and does not speak of martial arts ethics. Current dimension. Human fantasy derivative. Martial arts. Please explore the module extraction method yourself. Tip 1. This trip is the first dimensional trip for travelers, with special bonuses and reduced difficulty in obtaining modules. Tip 2. Please note that for awakened individuals, your death compensation can be directly converted into special extraction points, which can help extract high-quality modules during special events. Currently, it can be exchanged for 10 special extraction points. Welcome to Dimension. Did you not enter the Jianhu dimension as planned, but rather unexpectedly entered the Wulin. Lu Bai was not too surprised as he looked at the panel. He had a certain kind of personality. The Earth has become a collection of the thousand-dimensional God, and these people who come out of Earth are naturally marked by the thousand-dimensional God, and this so-called mark is this panel. This panel is also a way for Earthlings who have no extraordinary power to obtain extraordinary power, specifically those 3 skill grids. It is said that as long as the module is placed in the skill bar, it can form a skill with extraordinary power. More specifically, it was not something that Lu Bai could have explored before. What surprised Lu Bai now was the serpent ring in his own mind. As Lu Bai entered this dimension, the tail-eating snake finally began to rotate slightly, which also made Lu Bai understand the role of his golden finger. The ring of life and death. I think you're the ring of fools. Lu Bai scratched his head and spat out a fragrance at his golden finger mouth. When he died due to dimensional changes, his consciousness sank into death and touched this thing. With the resurrection of the thousand-dimensional God, he easily brought it out. The function of the golden finger is indeed good. After a thing dies, it will sink into the dimension of death, and it can transform things within the dimension of death into living things. In short, it refers to the talent, experience, ability, or destroyed treasure of the deceased. As long as it belongs to the dimension of death, the ring of life and death can transform it into a living state. That is to say, Lu Bai can take possession of all the talents, experience, abilities, or treasures of the deceased. But there are some small issues here. Firstly, the transformation of the life and death cycle requires Lu Bai to come into contact with the transformation material himself. This is very simple. Committing suicide immediately in burping your butt can lead you to the dimension of death. The key point is that the cycle of life and death cannot transform Lu Bai himself. I can go to the dead to purchase goods, but the goods can go out. I can't do it myself, right? Lu Bai was a bit speechless, and as of now, this golden finger still can't be used. Unless I acquire other resurrection abilities, Lu Bai remembered the thousand-dimensional God. Thousands of people had died due to dimensional changes, but they were all brought back by the thousand-dimensional God and successfully resurrected. It is said that some advanced travelers also have the ability to resurrect, which means that these golden fingers are not completely useless. After pondering for a while, Lu Bai temporarily put down the ring of life and death and began exploring this dimension called Wulin. Tianwu Group has always been known for its martial arts elements. Whether it is Jianhu or Wulin, it should be a dimension world of martial arts, where you can obtain modules related to martial arts. After walking on the wilderness for a while, Lu Bai finally saw a town from afar. People come and go in the town, and although the buildings are old, they still exude a bustling atmosphere. The clothing styles are all very ancient and rustic, and it is unclear which dynasty's attire it was, but most of it is not what modern people wear. Just, who can tell me why there were stockings in ancient times? Or white silk? Lu Bai looked from a distance, and suddenly a graceful beauty walked out of the quaint and old street crowd. The aura of that beautiful woman is completely different from that of ordinary people, and it can even be said that she is not in the same artistic style. Although her clothing style is still ancient, it is a combination of ancient and modern. Silk stockings, low-cut tops, and silk skirts are incredibly beautiful, but the sense of discord is also overwhelming. The people around are looking foolish, and the prostitutes in the gang are not so seductive. Unfortunately, no one dares to come forward and say a word or two, because just dressing and temperament have already divided two worlds. There are so many people in this world, and there are also many fools, but more of them are normal people. Without knowing the details of the other person, most people will not cause trouble rashly. If it's in some kind of fantasy world, there will usually be passers-by named by Shaoxing, who will pull out the other person's underwear to let people know their extraordinary background. Lu Bo crouched in the shadow beside him, avoiding people's sight and listening to their voices, but he didn't receive any information at all. Unfortunately, this is the world of martial arts, and Bai Xiaoxing's character is usually a behind-the-scenes boss-type talent, which is not so easy to encounter. After listening to a few comments, Lu Bai no longer cared about this matter. What he is thinking now is how to cross-dress and integrate into this world. If the previous women were just out of style with some inappropriate clothing, then Lu Bai's clothing is completely different from this world. I look a bit conspicuous now. There are people among those who have obtained extraordinary power, Lu Bai pondered. When the 1000-dimensional gate opened, it also pulled the surrounding bandits into the dimension. Although the person with extraordinary power was almost killed by him before, it was because the other party had underestimated Lu Bai's strength. Then he was caught off guard by Lu Bai, and the timing of the battle was very important. Once there is a serious frontal confrontation, Lu Bai may not necessarily be an opponent. After all the means of Lu Bai are those of ordinary people and do not involve any extraordinary power. Miao Kong Temple. Soon, Lu Bai discovered something and looked at a temple from afar. A little monk was cleaning the temple. Touching his short hair, Lu Bai suddenly felt that balding might be a good solution. Borrowing a monk's robe, Lu Bai found a razor in the temple and shaved his head. Soon, a fresh little monk appeared. Anyway, he looks handsome and can still hold his bald head. At this moment, Lu Bai sensed something as if something was about to condense from his heart. It's just that there's something missing, so the cohesive behavior is stuck. At the same time, a line of prompts appeared on the panel. Consume some special extraction points to condense the element module Buddha. Do you want to condense it? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Masters are accustomed to being at high places. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Masters are accustomed to being at high places. Can playing the role of a monk actually condense the relevant modules? Lu Bai raised his eyebrows and touched his slightly prickly bald head. It should be the reason why the difficulty of obtaining the module has decreased in the prompt. In addition, there may be special extraction points. Previously, Lu Bai found it difficult to understand why someone with extraordinary power came to attack him. But now it seems that it may be related to the conversion of death compensation into special extraction points. Based on my previous feelings, there is still something missing in my approach to condensing modules, and special extraction points can make up for this, which means that these special extraction points may be very valuable. The other party may have known this, so they came to grab this compensation. Lu Bai made a judgment. For the prompt on the panel, Lu Bai directly clicked no. This module may not be useful, and there is no need to waste it in situations where the value of special extraction points is unknown. After changing his attire, Lu Bai didn't rush to leave, but instead calmly walked around in this Miao Kong temple. In martial arts novels, there are two groups that cannot be avoided: Taoist priests and monks. Generally speaking, these two groups are most likely to have martial arts skills. The Miao Kong temple is not very large, and there are not many people. Lu Bai quickly found the temple's Sutra Pavilion, which is actually a small room for storing scriptures. To Lu Bai's disappointment, there were no so-called martial arts secrets inside, only some relatively ordinary scriptures. But it's not without gains. As Lu Bai reads these scriptures, he can feel that the cohesion of the Buddha module is becoming easier. It is estimated that after reading a scripture, even without the need for special extraction points, it can be extracted. As long as we obtain the relevant elements, can we extract the corresponding modules? Lu Bai explored the extraction method. However, there was no rush to connect and read the scriptures to extract the module, but rather to put down the scriptures and walk outside. In no time, he climbed over the wall and arrived on the street. Close your hands together, call someone a benefactor when you see them, and shout Amitabha Buddha when you speak and close your mouth. Many kind-hearted men and women will also bow back when they see Lu Bai. During this process, Lu Bai also felt that the cohesion speed of the Buddha module was accelerating. Of course, in addition, Lu Bai received another reminder. Consume some special extraction points to condense the element module. A deception, do you want to condense it? As expected, all behaviors will aggregate related modules, and due to the lower difficulty threshold, it is not difficult to aggregate related modules. It's just not worth it. Time cost is also a cost. For example, carefully reading a Buddhist scripture requires a considerable amount of time. Although there is no clear indication on the panel, Lu Bai can feel that his time in this dimension is limited. Therefore, it is important to distinguish between primary and secondary, and understand one's main needs. I want the ability to resurrect, I want extraordinary power. The former is difficult to say at present, but the latter, there should be something like martial arts in this world. So I must acquire things related to warriors, acquire them, and practice them. And during this process, if given the opportunity, we also need to deal with the gang of bandits who are charging me for death compensation. After setting a goal, Lu Bai had a clear idea of what to do next. He took 3 or 2 steps to the inn where the strange woman had stayed before and checked in. A woman with such a conflicting art style inevitably represents various problems. To understand the situation in this dimension, starting from the other person may be a good choice. As for the funds for staying in, just borrow from some kind-hearted people on the way. Before the dimensional changes, Lu Bai had been wandering in the martial arts world of that era for many years and was a personal martial arts practitioner who practiced for 2.5 years. A person makes a living, so they all know how to use all kinds of vulgar means, and their combat effectiveness is not lacking. If it weren't for bad luck and death due to dimensional changes, then the person standing at the top now would definitely have his place. But it's not too late now. In this wonderful world, I will inevitably head to its central position. Lu Bai sat by the window, watching the different scenery outside, waiting for the opportunity. Later, Lu Bai asked the waiter for a bowl of plain noodles. As the noodles came up, Lu Bai's expression changed slightly in the waiter's gaze. As the waiter left, Lu Bai's mind hooked on something, and then a small golden square the size of a thumb appeared in Lu Bai's hand. Buddha. Element module, a module with the attribute of Buddha. The panel also provides corresponding information. Playing the role of a monk along the way, this module has finally been condensed. Open your own skill bar, and as your mind moves, this module is placed inside. After waiting for a while, nothing happened. Is it true that a single module doesn't work? Lu Bai checked himself and found that apart from his temperament becoming more like a monk, there was no more change. Lu Bai was not very disappointed with this either. He just took it slow and didn't want to become a monk anyway. The night gradually deepened, and the once bustling streets gradually became empty. At this moment, the night breeze also became a bit eerie, with a piercing chill. Lu Bai closed his eyes to rest, and then heard some strange noises. Quietly getting up and controlling his breath, Lu Bai came to the open window and listened to the movements on the roof. Do these experts like to talk about things at high places? Lu Bai said in his heart. On the roof, during the day, the woman stood on the roof, her silk clothes fluttering in the wind, as if she couldn't feel any chill at all. Across from her stood a middle-aged man with scars all over his face. I don't know why the phoenix flying lady from the Holy Land came here. The middle-aged man looked puzzled and asked the woman for her purpose. Huamian, stop pretending. If you dare to act like 100 Flowers' tomb, aren't you afraid that we'll come knocking on you? Feng Fei, the female coquettish girl, smiled and said. Hands on. But in response, it was a low shout from the person known as the Flower Face Man. The next moment, many black-clothed people jumped out of the inn, darts, and hidden weapons flew towards Feng Feinu. Faced with this siege, Feng Feinu only chuckled lightly, and with a flick of her hand, her veil flew up, enveloping her like a rapid vortex. When those hidden weapons touched the light veil, they were already bounced off and flew towards the flower face. However, Hualien had already clenched her fist and stood in front of her, posing in a strange posture. Then, as the hidden weapon flew in, her hand began to move rapidly. Fingers seem to be made of fine steel, and the hidden weapon flying at high speed cannot get close to you, so it is directly slapped away by Hualien's hand. I've been able to practice flower fist to this level, it seems like I've been working hard for years. Feng Fei stopped her ribbon and didn't care at all about the black-clad people surrounding her. After all, I have always remembered the grace you have bestowed upon me. Hualien touched the scar on her face as if touching the most precious thing in the world. To remember, let's remember more now. Since I discovered your traces, there won't be much time left for you, said Feng Fei with a disgusted expression on her face. Discovered. Do you think those traces were really accidentally leaked by us? You lackeys of extraterritorial demons, time is running out. Hualien shouted and also stepped forward, waving his hands with a whistling sound. The people in black around him remained silent, pulling out their weapons and working together to surround Feng Fei. Trap. Feng Fei raised her beautiful eyebrows, ribbons flying and shooting. Although her clothes were light and floating, they were as heavy as a heavy hammer at this moment, hitting a person in black who was approaching. The man in black flew backwards, hit the roof, and fell into the house, feeling pain all over. But he persisted in wanting to stand up and climb up to continue fighting the woman. Just at this moment, I saw a little monk looking at him with a surprised expression on his face. I didn't expect that new books can also receive monthly passes, so I am looking for collections, recommended passes, and monthly passes for new books. These are very important for a new book, and I hope everyone can support me more. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Flying Girl, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4, Flying Girl Almsgiver, are you okay? Lu Bai cautiously approached and asked, as if he was a young monk who had not yet delved into the world. The man in black didn't have any nonsense, so he stood up and directly drew a knife to chop towards Lu Bai. This operation is a secret. If you don't sleep well at night and look around, you deserve to die. Just as the black-clothed man approached, the terror on the little monk's face disappeared instantly, and his originally seemingly thin body seemed to expand a bit. He struck his throat with a hand knife, whipped his legs to lift his genitals, and then cleanly grabbed his head and twisted it, completing the kill. At this moment, Lu Bai sensed something and squatted next to the other person's body, placing his hand lightly on it. In no time, 3 small squares appeared, 2 transparent and 1 light gray, and the panel quickly gave corresponding prompts. The operation modules acupoints, meridians, and energy, internal forces. It seems that the way to extract modules is not just about performing certain behaviors on oneself, but also hunting people with specific factors. However, it seems that one must hunt on their own in order to extract them. There are different types of modules, and so far 3 have been discovered. Elements, operation, and energy. The colors are gold, transparent, and light gray. It is estimated that there will also be more types of modules, and combining various types of modules together to form specific abilities seems to be the correct way to obtain extraordinary power. How to combine these modules? I estimate I will have some free time to slowly experiment. The focus now is on the battle on the roof. They are the people in the martial arts world. Starting from them is the key to understanding the situation in this world and obtaining sufficient benefits. The 100 Flowers Tomb. The Holy Land. The demon head outside the territory. Several nouns were heard by Lu Bai. I don't know if the extraterritorial demons among them are pointing towards these travelers. After all, as of now, it seems that working hard to gather relevant elements is not as fast as killing all sides and using the people in the martial arts world as crops for breeding and harvesting. It is not a problem for such travelers to be called extraterritorial demons. Is the so-called Holy Land a local force supported by travelers? That's why Phoenix Flying Girl has modern products such as stockings. And the 100 Flowers Tomb is a local resistance force. Lu Bai guessed, and the intensity of the battle above was also constantly increasing. Most of the other black-clad men lost their combat effectiveness, either falling into the house or onto the street, only fighting against Feng Fei with their colorful faces. The scars on Hualien's face twitched, making him look extremely ugly. He waved his hands and kept walking at his feet. If you ignore his face, watching his battle actually gives you a sense of beauty. Just like the hard-working little bees in the flower bushes, or like the embroidery girl on a loom. Flower fist embroidered legs. A pure white jade hand emerged from the spinning veil and also passed through the waving hands of the flower face, imprinting it on the opponent's chest and shaking them apart. It's really just flower fist embroidered legs. As Hua Mian retreated, she used her internal strength and exerted force under her feet, crushing bricks and tiles before standing still, with a hint of blood oozing from the corner of her mouth. But what followed was his laughter. Back in the 100 Flowers Valley, our ancestors fought to the death and displayed their full-body martial arts skills. However, they were praised by demons outside the region as flower fist embroidered legs, which was the greatest shame of my 100 Flowers lineage. Therefore, I renamed my martial arts as flower fist or embroidered legs to remember the shame. Now, I will wash away this shame with your life, and let you see if our martial arts skills are really flower fists and embroidered legs. Is it so tough to win or not? Lu Bai touched a man in black lying on the street while observing the battle on the roof. Although he said he didn't have internal strength, Lu Bai still had a keen eye for combat. From beginning to end, that Feng Fei woman was always beating Hualien down. Who knows where Hualien came from with the confidence to wash away her shame. Looking at the black-clothed man lying on the ground, unconscious from serious injuries, Lu Bo was preparing to harvest his life again to hunt for the module. But suddenly I noticed that the black-clothed man was suddenly awakened, as if he had suddenly felt a cramp in his leg from a midnight dream, and his body involuntarily trembled and struggled. In the midst of constant struggle, the black scarf on his face had also peeled off, revealing a face that seemed to be in extreme pain. His face was covered in black meridians, his mouth was wide open, but he could only make a whimpering sound. At this moment, Lu Bai discovered that the man in black did not have a tongue, but was replaced by a pigeon egg-sized sarcoma. At this moment, this sarcoma is emitting a faint light, and the light seems somewhat familiar. Before Lu Bai could even take a closer look, the sarcoma burst open, and a stream of blood splattered out while a small square flew out, heading straight towards the flower face. Looking at the black-clothed man on the ground again, he had stopped struggling and his face turned blue like an old piece of cured meat. It doesn't seem like a person who was just struggling in pain, but rather like an old corpse. Lu Bai was not afraid either. He placed his hand on the corpse and tried to extract the module, only to find that he was feeling lonely. Isn't this a martial arts hero? How did you come up with such a magical thing? Lu Bai quietly left the body. The situation wasn't quite right now, and it didn't seem like a good opportunity to pick up the leak. Unfortunately, before Lu Bai could leave, Feng Feinu, who had been beating her face, fell off the roof like a dead dog and fell beside Lu Bai. She vomited blood and fainted. Lu Bo really has some experience about sneaking. After all, sneaking attacks can greatly improve the winning rate. But stealth is just stealth, not invisibility. Therefore, Lu Bai, a strange-looking little monk, was discovered by the two of them at the first moment. "Hello, benefactor." Seeing Hua Lian's gaze fall, Lu Bai showed a harmless smile on his face, greeting both of them. "It's not good to fight and kill, why not?" Lu Bai moved towards Feng Fei Nu bit by bit. Hua Lian naturally doesn't want to hear a little monk from an unknown origin say more, and his ability to win is not without cost or unnecessary time waste. The pitch-black aura flowed on Hua Lian's body, and the originally beautiful Hua Quan embroidered legs carried a violent aura at this moment. It's no longer like a flying bee picking honey, but rather like a village child picking up a straight wooden stick in a rapeseed field, full of killing intent. To deal with this kind of person with internal power, Lu Bai did not blindly use lime powder. Instead, his body trembled, and as he shrank back, his loose monk robe flew out, blocking Hua Lian's line of sight. Hua Mian has rich experience, and even in mid-air, he immediately made the right decision. To some extent, Hua Quan and Xiu Leg are not wrong. Both are highly skilled martial arts, practiced with ingenuity and diverse techniques. If you don't practice well enough, it will only become a joke like acrobatics, easily defeated by others. But this exquisite martial arts, as long as practiced well, can exert the strongest combat power with the minimum force. For example, at this moment, even in mid-air, without any point of focus, he only moved his toes slightly and tore the monk's robe apart. Just as the monk's robe tore, a large amount of lime powder also dispersed. And behind the lime powder, there was the figure of Lu Bai running away with Feng Feinu on his back. Hua Lian's internal strength was stimulated, and he clapped his palms, creating a palm wind that blew away the lime powder. However, Hua Lian's figure also paused, and although Lu Bai was carrying Feng Fei's daughter on his back, he also ran far away. A master of external skills. Hua Lian did not detect the presence of internal energy from Lu Bai, but it seemed that he could only run so fast as an external skill master. But if you just want to run, you underestimate me too much, right? Hua Lian caught up with me in just a few steps. Embroidered legs are adept at maneuvering within small areas, often able to outnumber one enemy in a siege, but not adept at long-distance attacks. Of course, it's okay to catch up with Lu Bai, who has no internal skills and is carrying a heavy object. Just before he could get close, he saw Lu Bai holding the Phoenix Flying Girl on his shoulder. Then he turned around and lunged high, his muscles bulging and unleashing a majestic momentum. The next moment, the Phoenix Flying Girl became the true Flying Girl. New books require collection, recommendation tickets, and monthly tickets. These are very important for a new book, and I hope everyone can provide more support. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Internal Power Enhancement, Disabled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Internal Power Enhancement, Disabled. In ancient times, there was a king carrying a cauldron, and now there is a woman named Lu Baifei. Lu Bai, whose qi and blood are like dragons, can be called a natural divine power. Feng Fei's body is also relatively light, but no matter how light, she is still alone. This kind of large hidden weapon cannot be completely ignored even by someone like Hua Mian, who has achieved martial arts success. After throwing out the Phoenix Flying Girl, Lu Bai left without looking back. Leaving behind the flower face that caught the body of Feng Fei, his face was gloomy and he couldn't catch up with Lu Bai, who was running away. That's right, Feng Fei is already dead, seriously injured and unconscious, and has no resistance against Lu Bai. Lu Bo took advantage of the heat and did something, referring to completely killing Feng Fei's daughter at this time, and then delayed some time to extract the module. If I guess correctly, Feng Fei is a big treasure chest. The stronger the strength, the more relevant extraordinary elements one possesses, and the more modules one can extract. If possible, Lu Bai naturally wants to save Feng Feinu. After all, he still lacks a leader for this world. But unfortunately, with the Phoenix Flying Girl, I may not be able to run away. So instead of letting her die in the hands of others, it's better to take over and open it as a treasure chest. Lu Bai, who had turned around, did not go far. The skilled craftsman bravely returned to the vicinity of the inn and observed the movements of the personnel from the 100 Flowers tomb. In the novel, there are all lies. Who said searching for corpses can reveal martial arts secrets? Lu Bai touched the bodies of 3 martial arts figures, but couldn't see a single piece of paper. And the 100 Flowers tomb, a martial arts force that dares to resist the extraterritorial demon, can still be considered a generous force. The stronghold of such a powerful force must have martial arts secrets that cannot be found on people. It's better to go directly to the opponent's hometown to find them. Besides, the module implanted in the mouth of the black-clothed man before also made Lu Bai very concerned. The module should be something that travelers can gather with the help of the power of the 1,000-dimensional god. Why can a local force named Resist the Demon Head outside the domain possess it? Huamian was originally suppressed and beaten, but later she was able to seriously injure Fengfei, which must have been through the modules embedded in those people's mouths. How did he borrow this power? The profession of a traveler is very free, and there are no tasks or similar things. All gains depend on yourself. You can truly become a tourist traveling around and see different dimensions of scenery. But in order to obtain sufficient profits, it is necessary to have sufficient actions and participate in various events. Lu Bai's evaluation on the panel is strong-willed. He has a desire far beyond that of a normal person, manifested in the fact that as long as I want it, I must get it. It is precisely because of this strong desire that Lu Bo will not tolerate a comfortable life. There is obvious danger in the 100 Flowers tomb, but Lu Bai will not hide away because of it. He will actively pursue all interests. Fortunately, he still possesses a certain level of combat effectiveness. Stun a man in black and disguise himself as a companion by putting on his clothes. Following the people from the 100 Flowers tomb, Lu Bai successfully found their stronghold in a manor outside the town. The estate has a relatively large area and many people come and go. Lu Bai didn't rush to sneak in, but instead squatted in a remote place to check the harvest. He feels like he needs to be promoted to a second level before starting this new dungeon. Killing Feng Fei Girl obtained a total of 8 modules, plus the 3 obtained from killing the black-clothed man before. Lu Bai now has a total of 11 modules. They are: for internal forces, 3 acupoints, 2 meridians, dantian, and attachment. Among them, attachment is a new type of module, known as the release module. Energy, operation, elements, and release. The harvest is quite abundant, but how to transform these gains into strength is a problem. Open the skills bar, and Lu Bai selected several modules to put into it. But everything still hasn't moved. With Lu Bai's continuous experimentation, some tricks were gradually discovered. Using dantian as the foundation, internal power is integrated into it, and then meridians are connected to dantian and qiao acupoints on the arm, with attachment as the release port. Lu Bai waved his palm and activated the skill bar with his mind, feeling a special force attached to his arm. This allowed Lu Bopu's ordinary palm to exert a force far beyond normal circumstances, even igniting a wave of applause out of thin air. Lu Bai, who only slapped this palm, had a gloomy expression on his face. He picked up his sleeve, and the arm that slapped it was already covered in blue and purple. Then, by removing the modules placed in the skill bar, the problem was discovered. This internal power module is actually a consumable item, and it has been completely consumed with just one palm. And both the meridians and orifices have varying degrees of damage. Perhaps modules are not just 4 types, there are more. I should still be missing some things, and this skill is not quite complete. After thinking for a while, Lu Bai named this skill, Internal Power Enhancement, disabled. He must be missing something else, causing the power of his skills to be uncontrollable. Even if the internal power module is a consumable, it is not enough to consume it all in one palm. This move actually wasted most of the internal strength, not adding much bonus, but also causing damage to one's own arm. So the combination of skills also requires corresponding knowledge. Lu Bai scratched his head. Martial arts secrets are the key. Even if you can't practice directly, it's necessary to collect some in your hand, Lu Bai thought after thinking for a while. The position of meridians and orifices in this skill is just a line randomly pulled by Lu Bai. During the operation of internal force, it can be said that it was a rampage that caused damage to the corresponding modules. Fortunately, the damage was not severe and can be continued. The arm injury is okay, it's just some flesh and skin injuries. The two meridians can provide internal energy protection to two parts of the body. Lu Bai nodded satisfactorily. At present, the system of module skill columns is extremely superior. Although the result of the first release was not ideal, it should be noted that Lu Bai had never been exposed to internal skills before. But now they can directly use the years or even decades of hard work of others in an instant. Lu Bai has never been the kind of rigid person who can instantly obtain decades of hard work from others. Why not? Is the foundation not solid? Power is not such an inconvenient thing. It exists and can be used by me. That's all. It's like Lu Bai using lime whenever he can, teasing his own legs whenever he can, and even better if he has a mud truck. It doesn't matter if it's useless, just be useful. Initially, with his talent of being as strong as a dragon and various shameless and vulgar tactics, Lu Bai became a nightmare for countless people. Lu Bai is not the kind of person who values excellence. He only values one thing, immediate combat effectiveness. First, let's have a change, then let's have another change later. We are looking for monthly tickets, recommended tickets, and collectibles. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Everyone is a flower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Everyone is a flower. Focusing on solving his own combat power problem, Lu Bai walked towards the manor. The vast estate occasionally emits two barks of dogs, indicating that the best anti-theft weapon in ancient times was also found in the 100 Flowers tomb. The difficulty of infiltrating this manor has increased by an unknown amount, and one can easily be discovered. Lu Bai wandered around in search of opportunities, only to realize that there was no need to search for opportunities. More and more people are gathering towards the estate, with some wearing uniform and huddled together, while others are carrying weapons across the shoulder and chatting in groups of 3 or 2. All martial arts colleagues, I feel honored to be gathered at my 100 Flowers tomb today. I would like to invite you all to come in and drink 2 bowls of thin wine to warm your body and discuss this major event in the martial arts world together. The door of the manor was open to its maximum, and a middle-aged man dressed in fancy clothes was standing at the door, loudly speaking, receiving cheers from various martial arts heroes. Okay. Lu Bai mixed among the crowd, wrapped his bald head in his clothes, and clapped his hands hard. Those who didn't know thought he was invited to tow. The next step into the estate was to talk to people and ghosts. Soon, Lu Bai figured out what the situation was here. Brother Lu Bai, let me tell you, this holy land is really not human. Next to Lu Bai, a scholar-like person who didn't seem to have much force pulled him and said, I have to make friends every year, and those who pass by will never come back. Those Feng Fei women are quite charming, but when I went to find them privately, I asked them to leave. Hey, this evil organization should be banned and their stockings should be looted. Destroyed. The so-called Holy Land, which Lu Bo initially guessed correctly, is called Tianwu Holy Land and should be a force supported by the Tianwu group in this dimension. It is said that there is the highest level of martial arts there, and it is the holy land of martial arts for people all over the world. At that time, the Holy Land was born, and Lin Zhan from various sects evaluated all martial arts. Then demote the opponent's martial arts to worthless. For example, the original name of Baihua Tomb was Baihua Valley, known for its Baihua fist and flower-piercing legs. But it was defeated with a single blow, and martial arts became known as flower fist embroidered legs. The people of Baihua Valley simply changed their martial arts to flower fist embroidered legs, and even changed the name of Baihua Valley to Baihuatum. The Holy Land also stood above the martial arts world due to this behavior of conquering the world. Then, in a semi-coercive and semi-seductive manner, under the guise of participating in superior martial arts, each sect is required to send people to the Holy Land at regular intervals. But after those people went to the Holy Land, there was no news. In addition, there is also a large amount of wealth and benefits that need to be given away, and the signs of the Holy Land were particularly useful before this. Any martial arts sect that does not give face to the Holy Land will face annihilation. In this situation, it can be said that the Holy Land of suffering has been enduring for a long time. The reason why Baihuatum has such appeal is because they have tried to resist the Holy Land before and have not yet been exterminated. These people gathered here are all rebels of the Holy Land. Of course, this kind of rebellion is hidden. The reason why they dare to put it on the surface now is because the 100 Flowers tomb has already secretly contacted and provided evidence that the Holy Land cannot last long. And last night, the representative of the Holy Land, Feng Fei, believed that today these people dare to send someone over to drink. If Baihuatum had failed yesterday, even if these people wouldn't have jumped into the ranks of martial arts martyrs to help maintain order in the martial arts Holy Land, it wouldn't have been so lively here. Is there any evidence? Lu Bai looked at the dishes and quickly grabbed a bone stick, nibbling on it while thinking about the situation. It seems that the big explosion before entering the dimension was probably not just a simple theft incident, but rather hostile individuals with a relative size, calculating the Tianwu Group. The main business of Tianwu Group is the module sales of martial arts-related elements. The Holy Land is what they support to harvest modules. Even if they cannot successfully steal the key of dimension and destroy the Holy Land they support, it can still reduce their output within a certain period of time. There may be a cooperating insider in this dimension. In Lu Bai's mind, a series of business war conspiracies and schemes were recreated, such as commercial spies and betrayal by senior executives of the company. But these have little to do with Lu Bai. He accidentally entered this dimension with the aim of making a big profit. From this perspective, Baihuazhong is another force supported by another company, and it's no wonder they have modules and corresponding utilization methods. Before entering the dimension, Lu Bai had investigated relevant information. Although not much has been investigated due to status reasons, it is also known that the best way to utilize modules is through the skills section. However, not everyone can have the skill bar, and not everyone is willing to go to the dimension. These people who want to use modules must use some special methods. According to Lu Bai's knowledge, common methods include using modules to manufacture weapons. This weapon is easy to sell at a high price, even if it doesn't have any specific functions. As long as it is embedded with modules, it can be considered a luxury item. Amidst the crowd, Lu Bai used a universal excuse to go to the bathroom and sneaked towards other parts of the estate. He is here to search for martial arts secrets, not really to participate in the oath-taking ceremony to conquer the Holy Land. Lu Bai made an excuse that he couldn't find the restroom, called a servant, and then Li Daitao froze. Starting from today, my code name is 9527. Putting on his hat, Lu Bai sorted it out and twisted the neck of the servant who had been stripped into white strips, throwing it into the cesspool. Lu Bai walked out and his expression was similar to that of a servant. He even specialized in learning about performing disguise. Not talking about martial arts is not just about lime powder teasing in legs and other things. You must use all means to weaken the enemy while enhancing yourself. Sometimes preparing beforehand can be even more exhausting than fighting. The battle began at the moment when hostility was confirmed. Performance can sometimes have a positive effect on one's range of means. Lu Bai sneaked into a certain place and could see some black-clothed people. Although these people are not dressed in black as they were last night, their aura of a warrior is actually quite obvious. There is a flower field where they are guarding, and a large number of unnamed flowers from Lu Bai are blooming there. It's already winter. Are these flowers still blooming so fresh? Lu Bai watched from a distance and also noticed the suspicious point. From the number of dead soldiers guarding, it can be seen that these people attach much more importance to this flower sea than other buildings. Lu Baizheng was about to leave when he noticed a flower in the sea of flowers suddenly shaking and quickly withering, condensing into a fruit. Immediately, a dead soldier came over, collected the fruit, and ran towards the interior of the estate. Seeking recommendation tickets and monthly tickets is very important for new books. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Demons and Ghosts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Demons and Ghosts. The other party's move also gave Lu Bai a chance. Some warriors escorted the fruit to the interior of the estate, while others came to the flower field to observe the withered flower and record it. This kind of personnel change naturally creates loopholes in their defense work. Lu Bai successfully infiltrated into other buildings inside. I have found many disciples of the 100 Flowers tomb here, but their expressions are not very good now. They are observing their companions with a vigilant expression. It's as if the people around are not martial brothers, but enemies who can take their lives at any time. And when anyone walks towards the east, they will be watched with vigilant eyes until the other party gives up or turns to another building. This made Lu Bai very curious about the east side, and through some circumstances, it seems that it is also a flower field. There seemed to be something strange inside, but Lu Bai didn't have the intention to explore either. Instead, he searched for places where the secret script might exist. Then it was discovered that even within a sect, it was not easy to find martial arts secrets. The management of martial arts secrets by martial arts sects is very strict, and most disciples practice martial arts more closely through oral transmission. If there is no demand, copying will not be allowed. Generally speaking, the secret script is only available in the hands of high-level leaders such as the sect leader, as well as some elders who teach new disciples. It is precisely because of this management mechanism that there is relatively less leakage of martial arts from various schools and schools. Even for some disciples who know this kind of martial arts, it is not so easy to ask them to teach others the corresponding martial arts. Just like taking a driver's license exam, learning to drive and actually driving are two different things. The same goes for practicing martial arts. There are many sects and techniques inside, and you may not need them when practicing, but you must understand them. Learning to drive is just a failure, while practicing martial arts may be a failure. Lu Bai was not in a hurry to take action. There were some eerie things inside the 100 Flowers tomb, and people were too wary of those around them. Although due to this vigilant atmosphere, the whereabouts of Lu Bai, the infiltrator, were eerie but appeared normal. But once the boundary is slightly crossed, it will attract excessive attention. Let's wait for the evening. As a result, Lu Bai discovered that in the evening, the interior of the 100 Flowers tomb was also very lively. The disciples of Baihua tomb constantly make small movements, and occasionally they can even hear one or two screams. Has this 100 Flowers tomb turned into a demon gate? Lu Bai couldn't help but think. This kind of cultivation through cultivating gu internally is definitely a demon gate in the demon gate. Fortunately, in this internal atmosphere, when everyone is in danger, they will not care about what others are doing. This also facilitated Lu Bai's movement, as he quietly touched the location of an elder. Very politely knocked on the door. "Hee, have you kids finally set your sights on me?" The person inside the door heard a knock and chuckled, emitting a word of relief or exclamation. "Baihua Valley, Baihua Tomb." The elder sighed and smiled, waving his hand to generate a surge of internal power that opened the door. But there was no one outside the door. For a moment, the elder sighed again and walked towards the door. The night wind is indeed a bit cold, and it's cool to open the door with internal strength, but the door still needs to be manually closed. Just as I walked to the door, several wine jars flew over. The elder, however, had such an expression as expected. With a flick of his hand, a certain force shot out and exploded the wine jar, causing the red and white powder to scatter without staining any. This little trick, it's better not to bring it out. Before the elder could finish speaking, a cone flew towards him. The elder's expression changed, and he used his flower fist. His fingers accurately lay on the awl and bounced it away. Then he put his hand behind him and said calmly, "The strength is quite good." If his hands behind him don't shake, then this scene will be more harmonious. There is no such thing as extraordinary power on earth, and there is no such thing as internal strength and vigorous qi. The so-called martial arts world of the rivers and lakes are just people who exercise their bodies and pursue the pinnacle of combat skills. Even the strongest group of people, it is only through exercise that their spiritual will is condensed to the extreme, giving birth to some supernatural beings. Liu Bai is not a skilled player, he relies on his physical talent and various non-martial arts tactics. In the words of this world, Liu Bai is a master of external skills and still belongs to the top group. Although there may be various disadvantages when facing internal forces, there are also advantages within oneself. The body of an internal power warrior is stronger than that of an average person, but not much stronger, and most of them require internal power to support, such as lightness skills. That is to say, internal martial artists need to use their skills to be strong, while external martial artists rely on their bodies themselves. In this situation, some martial arts masters are also easily killed by surprise attacks. The elder is also focused at this moment, guarding against accidents. The 100 Flowers tomb was originally considered normal, but as the flower sea rose, everything became abnormal. The life of a disciple is connected to a life-consuming flower. The growth of the flower can drive the growth of internal energy, but if the flower fails, the disciple will also be backfired, leading to madness. This eerie method has made the methods of the disciples of Baihua tomb even more eerie, and in some aspects, they can no longer be considered human. Monsters and monsters. The elder snorted coldly, but this sound contained an indescribable meaning. Under the dark night, the night wind blew and a scream came from afar, causing the elder's attention to shift towards that direction. At this moment, a black shadow rushed forward, bringing gusts of strong wind. "Good day." The elder chuckled and punched, grabbing his sleeves and colliding with the black shadow. At this moment, his hands turned into soft rattan whips, and then quickly waved them, making a loud sound in the air. Monsters and monsters. The sigh sounded again, and the figure that rushed towards him was already torn apart under his hands, with a large amount of blood splattering out. The changes in Baihua tomb are top-down, and compared to those disciples, these high-level officials are closer to the term demons and monsters. To a certain extent, as they coexist with plants, their bodies may experience some alienation. For example, his hands soften and his bones become transparent, not only facilitating the transmission of internal energy, but also exhibiting exceptional flexibility like vines. The elder withdrew his hand and continued to draw, and the skin of the disciple on the other side would turn into meat sauce. He just stopped, but the other side didn't stop. The body bullied him and some scattered flesh and blood even scattered with the flapping. The elder was startled and as he stepped back, he clapped his hands again. But this time, the rushing figure was directly taken away, and a low figure approached the elder's body from bottom to top. Subsequently, the muscles erupted, and the beauty of physical strength was perfectly displayed. Seeking a recommendation ticket for a monthly ticket, weak and helpless with empty cries, and groaning for a ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Carnivorous Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Carnivorous flowers. Close to body melee, footsteps constantly pushing forward, fists quickly swinging, one punch after another. Allah 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 Allah. The so-called fist to the flesh, but after a while, it is fist to the bone. The flesh is rotten and the bones are broken, and the elder is truly a demon and ghost. Even if beaten so hard, he is still on the brink of death at this moment. His body was like a lump of rotten meat, picked up by Lu Bai's throat with one hand. Looking at Lu Bai, his face was already unable to twitch and make an expression. Monsters and monsters. After spitting out the ambiguous word, the elder completely swallowed his breath. After waiting for a while, Lu Bai threw the other person's body aside. I already have several more modules in my hand. The reason why I chose this elder as my target is because he has a somewhat reclusive personality and carries the airs of an elder, seemingly lamenting something every day. These were all interrogated by Lu Bai from a disciple, and as for that disciple, the one who was repeatedly beaten by the elder before was the one. Quickly searching through the elder's room, Lu Bai retrieved all the books, which contained many martial arts secrets, as well as a diary. Who would write a diary for a normal person? Although Lu Bai said so, he still opened the diary. After all, what exactly happened at Baihua Tomb is of great interest to Lu Bai. Third senior brother died, fifth senior brother was kicked out, and senior uncle was buried in the flower field. I didn't stand up. Perhaps this is a good thing, only with the help of extraterritorial forces can we resist the demons outside the domain. There is indeed an additional force in internal strength, and the ritual does have an effect. It's just a life-eroding flower, and it's not a good thing to listen to. But with one heart and one destiny, there is no room for regret anymore. They propose to cultivate Gu in the sect and no longer use the dead as nourishment, or that their disciples are high-level dead. Should I object? Many people died today, and Qin also died. He used the blood-burning technique that I taught him, but before he could get close to those people, his body instantly withered and became the nourishment of the life-eating flower. He was once a genius that I had admired and a hope for the rise of the 100 Flowers tomb. Unfortunately, everything is now gone. Or, to put it another way, when we didn't accept the eternal flower, everything was gone. The 100 Flowers tomb was already finished, and so was I. Objects outside the domain are all demons, even if they belong to different factions and forces, they are all demons, and I am now the demon's minion. The disciples are becoming less and less human-like, and perhaps the phoenix-flying women in the Holy Land have also experienced this kind of change. They fight against each other, using each other as nourishment for life-consuming flowers, growing vigorously, but it is unknown when they will take notice of us elders. I think it's almost there. Recently, some disciples have been looking at me with strange eyes. Who said I wasted too much time? It seems that studying the withered and glorious scripture is a bit late now, and the senior brother in charge will not give me another chance. It seems that it is too late to simply absorb nutrients. Perhaps this is also good. Diaries have no date or time, they are more like essays, recording one's own experiences and feelings. Lu Bai witnessed from his diary how a person who was greedy for life and afraid of death, yet had some ideas, gradually became what they are today. Sure enough, there are other forces intervening and symbiotically coexisting with these indigenous people through a plant called the life-eroding flower, absorbing them as nutrients. This is more long-term than just hunting, it's a sustainable development path. Lu Bai caught a glimpse of the operations of those large companies, which were all experiences. Although he was a newcomer and didn't use this method yet, who could say for sure what would happen in the future? This elder is also not qualified enough, and the most taboo thing in doing things is to have both ends at the head and mouse. Since he is greedy and afraid of death and has entered the demon realm, he can only walk all the way to the dark. If he really wants to be noble, he should stand up with the previous people to resist, rather than constantly hovering on the edge. This elder has a good starting point. He doesn't need to compete with his disciples and has the secret script passed down from above. He can freely kill his disciples and use them as nourishment. But on the one hand, he pretends to be aloof and disdains to do such demonic things, and on the other hand, he dare not stand up to resist and can only silently endure. Even if Lu Bai doesn't take action this time, perhaps in no time, there will still be disciples with great strength who will attack him. but the withered and glorious scripture. Liu Bai's heart moved and he searched for some other books, but did not find the existence of this so-called scripture. He only holds 3 martial arts books, Flower Fist, Embroidered Legs, and Burning Blood Technique. The panel also responded to these 3 martial arts books. Obtaining ancient books can be decomposed into corresponding modules. All 3 books have been flipped through many times, and the marks on them cannot be fake. Did you highlight ancient books? It seems that simple secret scripts will not be effective, but require some accumulation, perhaps it's time, perhaps it's some people's browsing and learning of them. It's not difficult to make such a guess. If any martial arts secret can be broken down into modules, then just start a printing factory here. Liu Bai doesn't think everyone else is a fool. After carefully flipping through the secret script, Liu Bai discovered the problem, which was that he couldn't understand it. It's not that we don't recognize characters, the characters here are no different from those on Earth. At most, there are some rare characters that we don't recognize, but it's not a big deal. The focus is on various professional terms. Practitioners of martial arts like to use this professional term. Previously, there was no internal strength, and simply exercising the body had various terms. Not to mention those who practice internal power nowadays. After reading it for a while, Liu Bai roughly guessed that there are about 10 different names for this power alone. Qi, body spirit, source, wandering spirit, and so on. This is what Liu Bai guessed based on the meaning of the preceding and following sentences, and there will only be more terms that cannot be interpreted. And the true meaning of these terms can only be conveyed through word of mouth. It seems that I need a teacher. Liu Bai collected 3 secret books. At present, these gains are temporarily sufficient, and he needs to digest them well. By the time Liu Bai finished sorting out the harvest, sunlight had already lit up outside the window. A group of half-aged children had already woken up, facing the winter sunshine, panting and standing on the empty ground, humming and punching. At the age of a flower, Liu Bai said as he watched the scene, but now these are all some cannibal flowers. These disciples of the 100 Flowers tomb are constantly working hard, and those with insufficient strength can become the flower fat of others at any time. So they are currently crazily internalizing, and they want to be the one who eats people, not the one who gets eaten. In this situation of internal competition, it is easy for traitors to appear. After all, their recognition of the sect has been distorted to a near negative level. Excluding some of the perverts who twisted and fell in love with this sect as a result, the rest are all good collaborators. Liu Bai thought of it and silently touched a place before dawn. Secondly, good night everyone, please ask for various tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Learning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Learning. Lin Bai is hiding in his own room and not ready to go out for morning exercises. This is not because he is preparing to die on an equal footing, but because of his current state. Once he goes out, he will seek death. Last night, a former good brother attacked him. Although he successfully counterattacked and sent off the brother who had previously worshipped him, saying that he did not seek to be born on the same day or month in the same year, but rather to seek the brother who died on the same day or month in the same year. But maybe he'll follow the same path if he's a little late. A touch of red spilled from the area wrapped in gauze around his waist. The injury is not serious, it only requires a period of good cultivation to recover. After coexisting with the life-eating flower, their recovery ability has been strengthened to a certain extent. Even if it's fast, it still takes a certain amount of time, and those companions around can't wait anymore. Anyone who shows a hint of weakness will immediately take advantage of the situation and others will enter. In theory, he should continue to practice martial arts on the open ground as usual, but unfortunately his condition cannot support it, and exposing his flaws may lead to his death earlier. It seems that there is a confused flower here that needs some help. When the sound sounded, Lin Bai drew out his weapon, but everything was grabbed by a big hand. Subsequently, the back of his neck was lifted, and the pain made him sober. Yes, I need help. Lin Bai immediately said, allowing the back of fate to be preserved. So drink, this is your fate. A bowl of green juice was placed in front of Lin Bai. The medicine carefully prepared by Lu Bai, of course, is actually a mixture of some unknown weeds that are crushed and mixed. Anyway, it's definitely not enough to kill people. The key is not what it is, but what the other person thinks it is. Lin Bai's face turned pale for a moment, but he took the green juice and drank it in one gulp. Apart from feeling a strong grass flavor, there was no special feeling. However, it is precisely because of this that he feels terrifying. So let's talk about the help you need and a reasonable compensation. Lu Bai's voice was very gentle, so gentle that the other party dared not resist. Next, Lu Bai and Lin Bai had a friendly exchange, but of course, this could not be denied as the other party turned around and sold Lu Bai. After all, selling an infiltrator can also earn a considerable reward to help him overcome difficulties. Don't think about betraying me to gain benefits, Lu Bai sat in front of Lin Bai and said, the secret in me is very big, it's beyond your control. You are a smart person and should know this. Lin Bai's chaotic thoughts paused for a moment, and he nodded, understanding the situation. If the other party is just an ordinary martial arts person, then exposing it means exposing it. But if the other party carries a big secret, then Baihua Tomb is likely to silence it. After all, the current 100 Flowers Tomb is not a loving family, but a heartless flower field. Subsequently, Lin Bai became increasingly aware that Lu Bai was not simple. Although possessing an irresistible power, I am not clear about some simple terms in the secret script. This abnormal state, as long as it is a person with normal intelligence, can interpret the other party's conclusions that are not simple. Looking at Lin Bai's expression, Lu Bai understood in his heart that the other party would not have any intention of betraying him for the time being. And what he needs is only temporary. In the next few days, Lu Bai came into contact with some other people because it was not guaranteed whether someone's teachings contained any private goods. Mutual verification is necessary to ensure the accuracy of knowledge, which also increases the risk of self-exposure. After all, people cannot be completely rational, and unstable factors always exist. Fortunately, I have also learned about it. Lu Bai is not completely illiterate, but he learns terminology quickly. Taking advantage of these few days, Lu Bai also copied 3 sets of martial arts secrets again. As he had guessed before, the newly transcribed secret script could not be converted into a module. However, after transcribing the secret script, all 3 previous secret scripts were also converted into modules. In an instant, Lu Bai had more modules in his hand. Killing the elder and 2 ordinary disciples both gave me modules, and with the conversion of the secret script, my number of modules has almost reached 30, although most of them are consumable, internal power modules. And the last piece of puzzle is also complete. Lu Bai pulled out a purple module. The operation module, concentration, has the ability to control the energy within the body during concentration. This is the module that exploded from that elder, and it is also the operating module of Lu Bai Wei. After adding this module, Lu Bai's internal power protection finally removed the disabled mark and became a normal skill. And with the increase in the number of meridians and orifices, as well as the correct arrangement, Lu Bai can almost use internal energy to provide protection throughout his body. Lu Bai gave it a rough try and found that the internal force module has different qualities depending on the location of the field. Normally, a brand new internal power module can support a body component with 3 to 5 internal power enhancements. If it is a full body internal power boost, it can only be used once, lasting for about 10 seconds or less. I am not proficient enough in controlling concentration, which has caused me to use internal power too roughly. I'm not really good at this kind of delicate operation. Lu Bai touched his head, which had grown an inch long. Of course, I don't necessarily need to perform precise operations. Lu Bai looked at his second skill column and pondered on the composition of the second set of skills. With the modules decomposed from the secret script, Lu Bai is not unable to combine a set of corresponding skills, it is just not suitable. During this period of learning, Lu Bai has also gained a certain understanding of internal martial arts. Normal martial arts cultivation requires coordination between movement and stillness. For example, in Flower Fist, one needs to be proficient in the techniques of Flower Fist. Through repeated connections, one can feel their own qi and blood surge, and then work with Jingong to refine the surge of qi and blood, ultimately forming internal strength. Stimulating and refining qi and blood is the foundation of internal power, and most internal power and martial arts cannot escape this framework. Afterwards, it is necessary to use internal energy to refine the body's operating system, such as the elixir field, meridians, and acupoints. This is a complete set of martial arts that can generate internal power on its own, rather than constantly consuming external internal power modules like internal power protection. I just want to build this kind of martial arts, but it seems that my modules are not enough. Lu Bai looked at his own modules and found that there were almost 30 of them, which seemed like a lot, but in reality, they were completely insufficient. If we follow the description of the secret script, it would take hundreds of meridians and acupoints alone. In addition, a large number of operation modules are required, but among the 5 modules, the operation module is the least. A self-contained internal skill composition requires a considerable amount of effort, and perhaps I won't be able to gather enough modules until the end of this dimensional journey. And it can be expected that even if it is composed of modules, this set of skills cannot escape fine operations. However, Lu Bai is not good at fine craftsmanship, and flower boxing and leg embroidery are all martial arts secrets of fine craftsmanship. So can we only think of some crooked thoughts? Lu Bai threw his flower fist embroidered leg aside and looked at another secret book called Burning Blood Technique. The first thing is to ask for all kinds of tickets, including recommended and monthly tickets. I can bear it. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Laissez faire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Laissez faire. This martial arts is quite suitable for me, but unfortunately, the modules are still insufficient now, unless I dismantle the internal power protection. Lu Bai carefully read the blood burning technique, which is a life-fighting skill. Unlike mainstream martial arts, it extracts accumulated internal power through a combination of dynamic and static techniques. The blood-burning technique is to directly ignite one's own qi and blood with a little internal power, and in a rough way, convert qi and blood into a large amount of internal power in a short period of time. These internal forces will violently impact your body, putting it in a state of explosive force. While obtaining a large amount of fierce internal power, possessing physical fitness comparable to that of external martial artists. Of course, since it is a life-fighting martial art, once the blood-burning technique is used, the best result is also a loss of both qi and blood, and it is more likely to die suddenly. In short, this is not a serious martial art. Of course, precisely because this martial arts is not very serious, there are not many modules required to construct this skill. For example, the element module, Ignite, has been obtained by Lu Bai by decomposing the secret script. In addition, there are modules extracted from the decomposition of flower fist embroidery legs. Examples include releasing modules such as conversion, extraction, burst, fist, and foot. Element modules, stimulation, flower, wood, nutrient, and several, qi and blood. Operate modules such as blood and meat, meridians, orifices, and dantian. However, there are very few operation modules, and several secret books have not been decomposed. Only 2 pieces popped out from the elder before. One piece is called Concentration, which has now been placed in Internal Power Enhancement. And another piece. Lu Bai was holding a purple module with a somewhat gloomy expression. Operation module, let go of everything. Comment. With a mentality of going with the flow, when nothing can be forced, it's better to let it go. This is the second operation module extracted by Lu Bai from the Elder of the Hundred Flowers tomb, and also the first module with comments. This symbolizes that this module has reached a certain level of quality. The module has quality, and after Lu Bai completed the internal power enhancement, he realized this. Different meridians and acupoints can bring different experiences. Some meridians are narrow and require concentration and force, while others are wide like channels with smooth water flow. There are some differences in quality to some extent, but qualities like laissez faire should be very rare. What's the use of indulging in this kind of quality? Even if the quality is high, it is still laissez faire. Everything in the body is in a state of laissez faire, and there is not much difference between having him and not having him, and it may even have a counterproductive effect. Indeed, it's a waste, Lu Bai thought of the elder. It can be imagined what his previous situation was when he was able to condense such high-quality laissez faire. Either remove the internal power and add protection, adjust the concentration to combine the blood-burning technique, or simply use laissez faire. Lu Bai thought for a moment and found it unnecessary. According to the description, the ability formed by the blood-burning technique is particularly fierce. Even with the addition of concentration, it may not have much effect and may even waste internal power protection. Although the modules and the skill bar can be retrieved and put in at any time, adjusting skills also takes time. There is a time difference here, and during combat, this time is likely to kill people. Lu Bai placed each module into the skill bar and made adjustments accordingly. A little bit of internal power was placed in Dantian, and then directly connected to ignite. After that, Qi and blood was added, followed by the operation modules, allow. Although it didn't matter whether it was added or not, Lu Bai still added it. The part of igniting Qi and blood has been completed, and the next step is to add the conversion module and add a internal power as the conversion template after the conversion. If we replace ignition with stimulation and indulgence with concentration, then it is the foundation for refining internal power. Afterwards, arrange the 8 extraordinary meridians, various acupoints, and so on, gradually converting Qi and blood into internal power. Lu Bai tried it before and found that he could indeed extract some internal forces. Unfortunately, the internal force is difficult to preserve and the quality is extremely poor. Compared to the internal force in the module, it is a gap between tofu and stones. However, it is not surprising that the source of internal power is that those people have been honing it for years or even decades. It is a dream for Lu Bai to extract high-quality internal energy in a short period of time without complete modules. So Lu Bai still focused on the blood-burning technique. As a release module, connect to blood and meat, and the entire skill composition is completed. At present, a total of 9 modules have been used, and perhaps, excitation, can also be added. The position or connection method of some modules can also be adjusted. Unfortunately, the side effects of the blood-burning technique are very obvious and cannot be tested arbitrarily. Lu Bai looked at the skill synthesized by the new group, and the construction of this skill is definitely very rough at the moment. Based on his experience in building and debugging internal power enhancement, there is no problem starting this skill, but it is hard to say how efficient it is. The allocation and connection of modules is a matter of knowledge, with many gates and paths inside. Lu Bai thought to himself, perhaps after leaving the dimension, I need to find someone to specialize in learning 1 or 2. The modular system of the Earth has been developed for 77 years, and the research on modules is always stronger than what one has come up with on their own. Lu Bai never believed that he had much talent in researching this area. He has a clear understanding of where his talents lie, and he leverages his strengths and avoids his weaknesses. I can barely make do with it now. After using it a few more times, I will have more insights to make modifications. Lu Bai didn't hesitate too much, but waited quietly. Soon, his partner Lin Bai came in. I've heard the news, Lin Bai said after looking left and right before entering the door and seeing no one following him. At this point, Lu Bai can actually leave. His gains are already significant enough. If he continues to stay, his benefits will plummet. However, before leaving, he also had some things he wanted to know. That was the way Huamian absorbed the modules from the deceased's body back then. From the module obtained by decomposing the secret script, it can be inferred that the martial arts of the 100 Flowers tomb lineage are all flower and wood attributes. Even after coexisting with the eternal flower, it only further enhances the flower and tree attributes. But that time, Huamian absorbed the modules from the deceased's body and was wrapped in black air. Based on Lu Bai's understanding of martial arts in recent days, Huo Yan has alienated his internal power attributes. So Lu Bai asked Lin Bai to inquire about the relevant information, and he had a premonition that this information might be very important to him. Just after Lin Bai finished speaking, he shut up, his face no longer showing the same fearful expression towards Lu Bai as before. Lu Bai took out an internal power module and threw it to the opponent. Lin Baixin happily took it and then continued speaking. That is a skill given above. The name is Ku Rong Zhenjing. The energy module is gray, the operation module is purple, the operation module is transparent, the element module is gold, and the release module is blue. Today, this chapter provides a relatively detailed description of the composition of some skill modules. I'm not sure if you may find it boring. If you don't think it's good, then Xuming will abbreviate this part and put the composition of skills here in the author's words. Later, Xuming will set up Long Tao building and module skill building in the comments section, and everyone can actively participate. End of this chapter.